What's up?
What's up? What's up?
What's up? What's up? What's
Turn
up?
up your radio.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Turn up your radio.
Mm-hmm.
We black and we back
Why you
again.
got that? Why you got that cowboy hat on today, man?
That what
He's
now? What you
representing.
said?
He got a cowboy
And,
shirt too.
and the
I didn't.
shirt too.
I
He's
didn't
not
hear you.
playing today. He didn't come to
And
play.
the shirt. Why
I didn't hear you.
why you representing the
I didn't hear
Cowboys
you.
so hard today, sir? I'm curious.
He
It's just
represents
how
him
I
every
step
day.
out. It ain't
Huh?
nothing to it. That's just how I step out.
Is this how you step out?
There
Okay.
ain't nothing to
All
it.
right. All right.
Mm.
I can't wait till I can rock some giant wear. It might not be this year though.
Okay.
It might not be
Woo.
this year.
Man, yeah, I don't have to go in the draft a couple more times.
Boy, I tell you. Hey man, we're gonna make this show quick because we know at 8 o'clock there's a debate going on. So we want to make sure that everybody get an opportunity. If you want to watch the debate, that you can go watch it.
Oh, that's the
But
truth. That's right.
yeah, it started at 8 o'clock Central Time. I guess 9 o'clock Eastern. But we got another good show for y'all tonight on the re-up. Dion, you gonna introduce everybody, man?
All right, coming at you. You know what I'm talking about? The young re-up. Your host, Deacon Seaworth, as you can see. Lasagna Witt, you can't
Yes, sir.
forget her.
You can't
Yes,
forget
sir.
her. Nah.
And coming at you live and direct is the young bishop, one good leg. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I got
Never said.
I got a voice request for y'all, man.
Go.
Yesterday I found out that one of acting greats passed away. James Earl Jones, man.
Oh, no.
93. He did
Yeah.
the thing.
93 years old, man.
He did the thing.
You got that voice, Dion? Can you do the James Earl Jones? Like Coming to America or Darth Vader? Any of those voices? You got that?
Of course. You know they all the same voice.
Okay. So do our introduction again, just in the James Earl voice. Let me see how you would do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, lend me your ears and quit playing with me. Luke, Mark, Matthew, and John. I am all of y'all's father. Shelton, the Deacon Seaworth, come forth and be knighted. Lasagna Witt, if you can see this post and you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth, you better get ready. Bishop, one good leg, you thought you could play with me? I'm going on a trip, and my son is coming with me.
Okay. All right. I like it. Man, shout out to James Earl Jones, man. We got a lot
Man,
of
they done killed him, man.
good.
He was 93 though, so if they did, he
Nah,
was
bro.
93. He was
I don't care
93.
how he was. You don't kill James Earl Jones. You heard me?
I hear you. He's
What are you
93.
What you
No.
talking about?
No, we're
Alright.
not gonna go there because we ain't got but a short show.
Oh, I didn't hear a cause of death yet. But,
No, I didn't either. Not really.
Oh.
But he's 93, so I'm gonna tell you, whatever the cause is at 93, it was inevitable that one of them days that this day was gonna be that day.
He lived a long life.
Yeah, he really did.
He worked to
One
the
of these glad
end.
mornings, he wasn't getting up.
He really did. Yeah, he did. He worked a long time.
Yeah,
He worked, like you said, till he passed.
Yeah, he was on some type of show. I don't know the name of it, but it was on a show I saw recently.
Mhm.
I think it was like a
them
police
wait.
show.
Yeah,
And
I
he
like
got-
his voice. He had that voice.
Yeah. Yeah, it took me forever to realize he was Darth Vader though.
I think somebody told me.
I was a kid, I just
Oh man.
Yeah, somebody told me that.
I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
But tonight's show, just like last week, we had a really good conversation, I think, last week. Um, talking about the difference between um, the hope teaching and the hellfire, hell and brimstone teaching
Mm-hmm.
in the church. This week, and I'm gonna I think we're gonna do our best to try to stay, not make it some type of race conversation. I want to come at this from a different point. But
Yeah,
this
Mike.
weekend, I'm sure you watching football with your Cowboy stuff on. You saw before the Miami game that Tyreek Hill was detained.
Mm-hmm.
And initially when the videos came out, we just saw him on the side of the roads. I guess people was taking pictures of it with their camera. So everybody was, initial thought I think was that, hey, what's up with that? And then I think today was the first day they released like the police body cam, and so I was gonna play it, but hopefully by this time people have already seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get any copyright strikes or anything like that because I don't know
Yeah, I got
who
you.
posted this or.
Mm-hmm.
But just to describe it, he was kind of speeding in his. What kind of car is that, Dion?
It was a bad car. Was it a Spider or was it something else? It
No,
was nice.
I don't know. I couldn't really tell.
I couldn't either.
Okay, it's
Probably like
nice.
Ferrari.
It's nice.
Robert, you think? Okay.
Yeah, it was real nice. But he was. It seemed like he was moving. Um, in that. So I'm just gonna pull up the
It
picture now.
almost looked like a Corvette a little bit.
Yeah, you
I mean,
might be
just the
right.
shape. I can't tell, but it just looked like a little bit.
You might be right. But he was speeding, right? And so police pulled him over. They asked him to
Allegedly.
roll his window down.
Allegedly.
I was like, no, I mean, did you see
No,
the
he was
body?
allegedly speeding. Allegedly.
Yeah, that's right. The
Oh, I
speeding
gotta
part.
say
Yeah, that's
allegedly.
right.
Okay, my bad. I'm not used to that.
I'm definitely used to it. Yeah.
He's not trying to get us in no trouble. Allegedly speeding. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna let the video play behind while we talking. But he was allegedly speeding, and they rolled his window down, and I guess they knocked on his window, and he told them not to knock on his window. So he was already upset. I guess he tried to get to the game. Maybe he was late. I don't know.
You know, the thing about it, and certainly having played sports a number of years, on game day, you got a whole nother set of emotions that are going through you, and everything must kind of go in a flow, if you will. And
Hmm.
when that flow is interrupted or impeded, especially like this, it definitely, it does some things to you. And so I can understand him initially acting like that, but at the same time, these cops were kind of amped up too. You know what I mean? And when that when you got two groups or two different sides that ain't backing down, this is going to be the result every time. I mean,
Yeah.
he's also he's lucky that he didn't get tased or shot. Really, at this point, because the way they were acting, it could have easily went there. So
Ricky told me with the Ricky Crawford. Shout out to Ricky Crawford. He told me it's a McLaren 720S coupe.
Ooh, I don't even know
oh,
what a
okay.
McLaren is, but I know today.
Okay.
That's nice. That's real
Yeah,
nice.
it look expensive. I'll say that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dion, I was sitting up here today trying to figure out what topic we want to talk about, and I was kind of going through some of my notes, um, and I saw a post from ESPN, right, and I'm Stephen A. I never, I'm really I like Stephen A. But there's some things where I think he kind of pushed the limit, right? So, they were talking about this from a standpoint of what happened and what was going on and the so I think everybody can agree that this was a little bit a lot even for a ticket. Let's say he allegedly was speeding, allegedly did a couple things. It was a lot to take this man out of the car, slam him on the ground, and all of that in front of a whole bunch of people.
And
right?
they harassed his teammate too, because his teammates was like, "Man, they got Tyreek on the ground. Give me your ID."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's
what
one of
did
his
you have to
teammates
do?
there.
You
All
ain't
he was
pulling me
doing
over.
was had his hand up. And it seemed like, some of the officers, and I just want to speak, some of the officers were trying to de-escalate, but then like this young man right here, he came in on one. Like, I think he the one that said that I'll break the window if he put it up
Yeah,
again.
that was him.
Yeah, so I don't know, he just must have had a bad day or something. I don't know. But either way, it got escalated. And so, a couple of takes that I've heard on it, right? One, I mean, when we're talking about, we've talked about kind of police issues before, right? And we've talked about the need, I think, for training and just making sure that they know how to handle, certain issues or whatever, or de-escalate it, right? But Stephen A, getting back to Stephen A, he had brought up on the show that after everybody said that the police were kind of in the wrong for how they handled him, that Tyreek should have gone through the standard, you know, um, the standard ritual for any black person that gets pulled over, right? And I'm tell you guys why I'm saying black person, right? Um, when we get our license, they tell us to put our hands on the steering wheel, make sure that we don't make no sudden moves, be respectful with the police officer, all of that, right? Um, Tyreek, granted, I think he was a little disrespectful, in some cases, right? But what concerned me is, again, that becomes the focus of how he was treated, right, and how he was handled. Because I want to say it was a couple of weeks ago, I saw a video of a Caucasian person
Mm-hmm.
getting
Right.
pulled over,
Come on.
and they were cussing, they was
Right.
fussing, they was pretty aggravated, right? And um, none of this happened, right? And so tonight's show, if you look at the title, is about empathy, right? And I wanted to use this example more as an example of the lack of empathy that I see sometimes in church, right? And see, I mean, it's in the world, but I guess my expectation is that in the church, we would have a better sense of empathy, especially since Jesus told us that he gave us a new commandment, and that's to love our neighbor, right? You can't love someone without having empathy, for what they're going on. And so, being a young black man at some point, right? Um, there's a lot of things that I have had to deal with
Mm-hmm.
that some of my Caucasian friends would never really have to understand, right?
No.
Um, and I'm pretty sure there's some things that my Caucasian friends would have to deal with that maybe I wouldn't have understood, right? And
Right.
I think the issue is that in a lot of my cases, for sure, I know I am trying to understand where they're coming from when they say certain things, and I think that needs to be reciprocated throughout. Right? We need to have. I feel that we need to have more of a demeanor or more of a skill set of understanding. Before we jump to a conclusion on why a person is reacting or doing the things that they're doing. So I'm gonna stop for a second. That's my initial thought with what we're talking about today. Again, the title of this show is Church and Empathy, Bridging the Gap and Understanding Others' Struggles, right? And so we're talking about this Tyreek situation, but this can go so many different ways, right? You know what I mean? When we're talking about economics, when we're talking about politics, when we're talking about um, doctrine in church, how people know God, right? Their relationship with God or their walk with God, not knowing their background or not knowing, certain things about them kind of leaves us a blind spot when we're dealing with people and having a relationship with them. And, I see it as a reason or a way that we stay divided as a church instead of being unified in some cases. So, Sonia, I see you thinking. I know I put a lot out there. I haven't even asked my real questions yet, but what's your initial thoughts with that?
Oh, you want to read what he said?
Ricky Crawford said, first problem is they only make 50K to 80K, and they see a black man in a $500,000 car and his teammates pulling up in Rolls Royces. They have a problem with that. Okay.
Hmm. They probably did.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, what's up?
Probably, I mean, especially in Miami, he probably thought he was a rapper because I don't think the initial guy knew who he was. Um, when the sound is on the video, you can actually hear one of the police say, "Do you know who that is? He's the star player for
Hmm.
the Miami Dolphins." So some of the police officers knew who he was. Some of them I don't think knew, and honestly, I don't think they cared either way. So
Hmm. That's the truth. That's what it felt like. Hmm. That's what it felt like. I have a lot of stuff that I think about um, this, and he didn't do enough to warrant being thrown on the ground. No matter what they might say, disrespectful. It didn't warrant. If I'm the police and I'm supposed to keep the peace, I'm the one that de-escalate situation and talk people off the roof, hostage situation. I talk the people down. I'm the one that comes into the scene with the demand that no matter what we encounter today, I de-escalate it. And sometimes they it just seems like no matter what they're doing, like you can't take it personal. It's like, okay, he upset. He didn't pull no gun. No matter what they say he did, respectful, disrespectful, whatever, it did not warrant snatched out the car, throw it on the ground. Man, I just had surgery on my knee. It don't matter how you look at it. I looked at it 3 or 4 times. It does not warrant when you're in the position of authority for somebody's speed. You weren't chasing them for raping, robbing, killing. You just got from a scene. He killed 10 people. You got to run this car. You say speedy, so to speak. And I think it's a bad issue when you cannot de-escalate a situation and you have the position of power. You upset because somebody won't roll their window down. Just like that, that's a real issue that I see in our community where we're not treated the same for whatever the reason is behind the scenes, but it's way too much of it and it's too acceptable. And I think because not enough is taken serious or enough being done about it. Now, they did say they put him on administrative leave, but like the young man said in the interview, if I wasn't Tyreek Hill, we wouldn't be having this interview and it probably would have went a different way. You
yeah,
know, if I wasn't who I was, this probably wouldn't have this interview with me. It probably way, you know. And he did. Well, he was respectful when he talked about. He said, "I don't really want to say too much about it because I don't still trying to process what really happened. Like I'm trying to figure out, okay, what warranted all this. He didn't have too much to say. He gonna let the lawyers handle it with the video and stuff. He said, because I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it in my head. I got to get home to my wife and kids. You know."
yeah, and Stephen A. said something about and he highlighted the fact that again, we understand in the black community that we have certain rules, certain things that we need to put in place. But the empathy part of it is just understanding that it doesn't apply across the board. I pulled up while you were talking. Like I said, I just did a quick search of because I was trying to find the video that I came across a couple of weeks ago and found all kinds of things that happened this year. This is a young couple. I guess the guy was riding a golf court. I want to say this was in Florida too. He was riding a golf court on a public street. They pulled up into his driveway. They followed him up to his driveway, tried to ask for his license. I mean, this ended up being a 15-minute conversation of this man telling, "I'm not giving you my license and get off my property. And
Mm-hmm.
you're not supposed to be on my property." Like just really talking to a police and the police officer maintained his calm, maintained his peace. The Both of these people did end up getting arrested in the long run because they just kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. But it didn't escalate. It didn't escalate until they put them cuffs on their hands and you know took them. And it didn't even have to be that way. It was going to be a warning or something. This guy, I think, was a senator, congressional candidate. I think his name was Martin Hyde or something like that. And he was like, "Do you know who I am?" He was speeding he was speeding doing like 57 and a 35 on his
Mhm.
cell phone. It, just very disrespectful, right? It was a young lady who pulled him over. You know, he was basically trying to bully her and tell her what he wasn't going to do and that she was going to lose her job, all of this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So it makes me think, that when I know that back when what was the guy in Memphis? He had got beat up by all those cops that we talked about last year. I think the beginning of
Oh.
last year.
Mhm.
Um, it made me think that again, it's there's different requirements, right?
Mhm.
When I think about business, and I'm gonna share something. This is just something one of my mentors told me when I was really young. Believe it or not, I used to have a lot of hair, right? In my 20s, I used to have like
Mhm. Big
what they
fro.
call,
Got
yeah,
that big afro.
what they called a DC on the East Coast. It
Oh,
was,
okay.
like a fro and taper on the sides and
Okay.
in the
Okay.
back. So I don't know what they call it here in Texas, but um, I started my career young, and they were trying to move me into leadership. And he gave me this advice, and it stuck with me. And I've heard it a couple of times, from different Black leadership trainings and things like that. That as a Black man in corporate America, I'm not supposed to wear facial hair in leadership because it's intimidating, and it baffled me because in leadership, a lot of my Caucasian brothers are able to wear full fledged Grizzly Adams and beards, sort of like Dion's beard right now. Full face beard, all of that, and it's no issue. And but it goes to show unconsciously or consciously, this stigmatism in everyone's mind. But just and I'm not saying this because I have a problem that they're wearing a beard or I would have to shave my face or anything like that. I'm saying it like we have to take time and try to understand where each other is coming from. And race is probably one of the most obvious things that I think is hard for us to do that with because again, we're not in each other's skin. So I guess the first question I would ask you guys and our audience, and y'all can chime in. Y'all can see. Shout out to my boy Ricky Crawford. He does music, he
Cool.
does beats. Um, so he's definitely a friend of the show. But why do Christians sometimes struggle with showing empathy towards other, especially in like unfamiliar situations? So why would that be an issue? And I'd say in particular for Christians, why do y'all think that's such an issue?
Look at Dion. He ready.
I think it's a issue because so many times we have the expectation of others being punished and God's favor being on us, basically.
Oh, okay.
So it's like I always say, death for others
Race for you.
um and grace for me. You know what I'm saying? It's like I don't understand that mentality, and it's very, very dangerous because it definitely sets up a precedence that you relish in seeing other people, you know what I'm saying, go down. Even in
Mhm.
this Tyreek Hill situation, it doesn't matter about him being famous or rich or any of that, all the time. And certainly this, we can go back as far as you want to, when police come up, their, you know, goal in a black situation is to gain control of the situation. As soon as they come up, they want to get control of it, right? Immediately get control of it. Whereas when our counterparts get pulled over or something like that, they want to understand the situation, to get all the information, get the facts, if
Yeah.
you will.
Hmm.
And it's like that is why a lot of these situations go escalated, is because you're trying to get control of somebody in a lot of cases that is not going to be controlled.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you talk about alpha males. You know what I'm saying? Alpha males is like, I'm not finna bow down to you. You're a man just like I'm a man. And the police is like, I'm a man and this and that, and you're gonna listen to me and blah blah blah. And I'm giving you an order. You work for me. You don't give me orders. I pay your salary.
Mm-hmm.
My tax dollars pay your salary. You work for me. How you gonna give me an order? You can ask me, but you can't command me.
Mm-hmm.
And all
Absolutely.
I'm saying is that we have to, get training on both sides, because when you basically act out, and they're going to get more aggressive, and it's just going to be back and forth at that point. Now it's a ping pong match, or as they like to play now, pickleball match. Um, but at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, instead of trying to get control, always, because your liaisons, you should always come to the scene and get the facts and get an understanding of the situation before you escalate.
Yeah.
Period. Always get an understanding. And that a lot of these shootings and beatings and all of these kind of things will be avoided if you come to the scene, just prepared to take a report and get assessment of everything that's going on. If you immediately pull up and pull out your gun, then you've taken all of that off the table. Now there's not a chance to understand, because if you got your gun out, something's going to happen. Nervous
Yeah,
twitch,
but
and you're going to nervous twitch, and now you done shot him. You see what I'm saying?
yeah. Well, like Ricky said earlier, I think the problem, to your point, Dion, they saw a man driving a $500,000 car. I think, maybe again, they was only making 50K, 80K, or whatever a year, and to your point, I think they didn't come in with the right mindset of,
Mhm.
let me empathize with these people. Um, I'm going to share a work story with you guys in just a moment, but I want to read what Ricky said here. When talking about church, a lot of church folk won't understand other people's point of view because they only see from a biblical standpoint. It's like being in a cult again. And I grew up in church, and my father was a pastor, so I understand this firsthand. This is why people don't go to church like that anymore. So here's what I'd say to this. We talk a lot about relationship with God over religion. And so what I kind of read into this, because I think the Bible should be a standpoint of what we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But Lasan, you say this all the time. We use scripture like rocks. We use it to stone people. We use
Mm-hmm.
it to harm people, as opposed to exhort or encourage people, or let them know that it could be a better way. The scripture that comes to mind is in Ephesians 4, verse 15. I'm going to read 14 and 15. It says, "Then we will no longer be infants, tossed back and forth by the waves and blown here and there by every wind of teaching and by the cunning and craftiness of people and their deceitful scheming. Instead," and this is the part that I think is important, "instead, speaking the truth," right? So the biblical truth. And the part that we always leave out is in love, right? The
Mm-hmm.
opposite of not having empathy is to have unconditional love, have love and understanding for each other, right? And so if your motivation, if you're not speaking or if you're not giving biblical truth with love, then um, that's immature. That's some immaturity on our part as far as trying to give the word. I think both pieces is necessary. Um, anything else with that, Sonya, Dion?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Because the Bible is actually the spirit of the Bible is very foundationally sound and would help you be better. Because if you notice in the Bible, when the man got beat up, the Good Samaritan came along and helped him. the Good Samaritan came along. Everybody else, the pastor walked by, the Levi walked by, everybody walked by except the man who didn't have no relation to him, an outsider, and somebody who ain't supposed to be talking to no Jews. It's like, oh no, sir, he wasn't supposed to have no dealings with him, and he the very one that came and helped him. So the Bible, if you have the spirit of the Bible, it's like even if you don't have dealings with these people, when somebody's in trouble, you need to see about them. You know what I mean? So the empathy is there. It's like Samaritan and Jews don't even talk, don't have nothing to do with each other. It's like, no, sir. So it's as if, the Bible is foundationally truth if you would use the spirit of the Bible. You can't use the Bible as a rock in a way to, destroy people, because the letter of the word without the spirit of the word is detrimental, and it causes a whole lot of people to be destroyed more than it does to be helped and harmed. So I believe that the foundation, if you have the spirit of the word, you'd be fine. You wouldn't mistreat people. You would know the spirit of God, and you would help somebody if they were in trouble, no matter if you agree with their doctrine or not, or if you agree with their lifestyle, not if you agree with anything. Your spirit would be to help if somebody's in trouble, like the Good Samaritan did, who
Yeah.
didn't have nothing to do with no Jews. Like that was like out of the box.
That's a good example. That was going to be my next question. Like, do you guys know of some examples in the Bible, some biblical examples that demonstrate the importance of empathy? And I think that's a really good one. I think it's a key one there.
Yeah.
Um, when I thought about that question, I thought about Jesus himself. When we think about what Jesus did, we always kind of focus on the salvation. He came and died on the cross with us, but he's God in body. If you
Mm-hmm.
believe that, which means he put on flesh. And
Mm-hmm.
before he put on flesh, he didn't know how we felt about this or what temptation looked like or anything like that, because he was God. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what he tempted by. But when he had to put on our flesh, now he can actually say he knows exactly how we feel about certain situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how we can deal with it. And I think that's probably the most empathetic thing that anybody could do, because when you look at the definition of empathy, it's walking in somebody else's shoes. It's
Mm-hmm.
saying, let me try to understand where you're coming from or where you're feeling. Ricky just, posted something about slavery. I know in one of our previous shows, we talked about the systems that are in place, or that we feel that are in place, that kind of address certain things, right? We did talk about, the accountability of trying to overcome those different systems or whatever. But the fact that the system is in place
Mm-hmm.
is an issue. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? The fact that the stigmatism or the whatever is in place is the issue. We really shouldn't have to have a workaround for certain things. We shouldn't. You shouldn't need to have. The whole big thing in this election is about DEI. And being a DEI hirer. You wouldn't need that if there wasn't already a stipulation of, black people or brown people not even being able to have an interview to show their qualifications for different things. That's when all of that came about. So now it's an issue, but again, are we having empathy, for something that maybe we don't deal with personally, but someone else is struggling with. Um, I said earlier that I was going to share a work experience. So you guys both know I worked in customer service a lot, and so I used to have a customer service team. And one of the things that my customer service team, used to struggle with is talking to people who were, real well financed about their problems, and empathizing with them. Just give you an example. Somebody, wanted a chair for a party on Saturday. They calling in, they all distressed, they yelling, they cussing, they fussing, and hear your boss coming telling you, hey, have empathy for them. And so we used to role play, and they just like, how am I going to have empathy? And what I started realizing is that the reason why they struggled with empathy with those situations is because they didn't have those type of problems, right? They
Mm-hmm.
didn't understand why, this person was tripping about a piece of furniture, for a party, when this person might be entertaining a governor, a president,
Mhm.
some high profile person from overseas or business, person or whatever. So, I had to help them understand that let's relate this to something that is important to you, the same level of importance to you. Because we most of us, if we're making barely more than minimum wage, and we talking to somebody with this much money, we like, why don't y'all just go to the rental store and get another chair or something like that? Get one of them
Mhm.
flip chairs or whatever, because that's
Oh
what
my God.
what I would do, right? I mean, I'm telling you this practically because I heard this, right? And the lady had that response. Dion, like, oh my God, how dare
Right.
I can't have no flip chair at this
Mhm.
party.
Mhm.
So helping them relate it to something that was important to them. So I would always have to kind of, ask them, or kind of deep dive and find out what was that type of importance to them, so that they could understand the feeling and the emotion. Because the other thing about empathy is really not just understanding and putting yourself in their shoes, but also understanding how that person feels, right? And being able
Mhm.
to relate to how they feel. That's probably more important, because if you can relate to how someone feels, then you can probably react and respond to them in a better way.
Right.
Mhm. I had an instance when I worked at a particular company, and they would always get me to de-escalate situations. So we had a particular boss, and she would be very demeaning, so to speak, to people. But this is what I understood: some people be racist because they trained a certain way, and some people believe a certain way. But I knew by working with her, oh, she just trained wrong, she just need different training. Because my
Mhm.
other coworkers, they'd be ready to fight her. They'd be like, oh, son, you better go out there and get her. I mean, they would go to jail. And so, but this is my difference. When I talked to her, she was very open, and I told her how she made the team feel and how she was. And she turned red. She was like, man, I didn't know that. But it's something, sometimes I can tell. Like I just said, she just got wrong training. But some racism be deep down, like you believe it, whether it was trained wrong, but it's in you. And I can tell she just trained. So I said, once I talked to her, she didn't do it again, not like that, because they would be ready to take her head off. They'd be like, we going to jail. But once I said, no, that's y'all not reading her right. She's doing this because this is how she been taught. That's what she knows. But if we address it and talk, I said, watch, I talked to her. And when I talked to her, she was a different person. Sometimes you have to be empathetic to know what you're dealing with when people are talking, or see through what they're saying or what they're doing. So I think it's different levels to different people. And in some ways that people just train wrong, and some people believe wrong. And that's a difference. It's like it's in me to believe this, and I ain't come. But I could just tell her personality wasn't like that. And I was like, she's doing what she know. That's what she been brought up to do. That's just how you do it. That's how you talk. And once I told her,
Yeah.
she's like, oh man, I didn't have no idea that that's how I made people feel. So it worked in our favor, and she didn't have to go to make no hospital visit. Nobody had to have a record.
Mm-hmm.
But they'd always come get me. You got to go, because they wouldn't even talk to her. They'd just walk right up, like we could go into jail if she say something else. So yeah. So
And that's
definitely.
good. And that's good because if they'd have talked to her, they probably would have came at her,
Oh yeah.
kind of like a lot of these police come into a situation trying to gain control over it
Yeah.
and assert themselves on it instead of really trying to understand her and help her to understand them.
Yeah.
On both sides, and the Bible says it as well, in all thy getting, get an
Didn't
understanding.
understand.
At
Look,
the end of the day.
mhm,
In every situation,
get an
understanding is
understanding.
key. It's key. And you have to be able to get to that point in order to get to the resolution. Because
Yeah.
if I don't understand you and you don't understand me, then where are we going with this?
Uh-huh.
We can't let guards down. We can't get behind the wall. We can't get to the heart of the matter. We can't get a resolution at all because we haven't even addressed the fact that we are at a standoff, initially.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, and I don't know this for a fact because I didn't live back in the 1800s, 1900s, all of that. But it feels like it's increasing, the lack of empathy in the world,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
And
it does.
definitely in the United States. And it made me think about the scripture. The other scripture that I wanted to pull up is um, this is Timothy, Timothy 3, and it says, "But realize this, that in the last days difficult times will come, for men will be lovers of self, lovers of
Mm,
money, boastful, arrogant,
mm,
revilers, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, unloving, irreconcilable, malicious, gossips, without self control, brutal, haters of good, treacherous, reckless, conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, holding to a form of godliness, although they have denied its power. Avoid such men as these." And the main thing that stands out to me, and you can see lovers of self or love of certain things other than each other, right? Um, all through that, right? And I think the basis of it, when we think about, again, when Jesus said, "A new commandment I give you," and that's to love, one another, right? Love your brother, and then love me, love God. His first commandment was love God and then love me, right? We do that, like all the other stuff falls in line, right? Because if you love a brother really, you're not gonna lust after their wife, or you're not going to want to commit adultery. If you love your sister, you're gonna do right by people when you really get that concept, right?
Mhm.
But the issue is, again, this lack of empathy is super important. So I guess my last question, before we start wrapping up, is how do we garner empathy? How do we get more empathy, to happen in the church practically? You know, I know God is saying that we have to do it, but what does that actually look like practically for us?
Put yourself in other people's shoes. Pretend it's you. Let's say, okay, I'm upset. Okay, let's make me be that person that I'm upset. But what if that was me? And I think you think different about it when you put yourself in their shoes. How would you want to be treated? Like, put yourself in their particular shoes. How would you want them to be treated? What would you want to happen if it was you? It's easy to say what should happen to them, but what if it's you? What should happen to you if you were that person? So
Right.
I think empathy, if you see yourself in their shoes, it's like, okay, let me see, how would I want people to treat me? Then you start having a little bit more empathy then if it's you. It's easy to say when it's them, but it's different when it's you. It's like, okay, it's me now. Okay, what would I want them to do? Like, let's say I'm guilty. How do I want to be handled if I really was guilty? Like, okay, prime example. Empathy, easy. They brought the woman to Jesus, called in adultery. Immediately, they was ready to stone her. They didn't have, oh, yeah, get her. We caught her in the act. Jesus, you got to handle it. What you gonna do? You know what Moses said. I mean, we pulled her out. She ain't get a chance to do nothing. Just snatch it. What you gonna do? Jesus don't say nothing. And then he said, okay, I got a solution. Any one of y'all without sin, throw the first stone. Empathy. Let's say this you. Tell me, now y'all brought her sin to me. Now I'm gonna bring y'all sin to y'all. Uh, who ain't got no sin, throw a stone. Did nobody throw no stones? Why? Because they had sin. He brought the empathy to them, whether they could feel it or not. He brought it right on home. It's like, okay, y'all brought her, snatched her out. Yeah, what you gonna do is say stone her. He said, okay, so in other words, what he didn't say is, what you think I need to do to you about your sin? Okay, you want me to stone her about hers. Now, what should I do to you about yours?
Right.
So throw a stone. If you, any one of y'all without sin, throw your stone. How about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
That's how you fix this. How about that?
You think the dude that she
Guilty.
was trying to commit adultery with was in the crowd too?
Probably was. She had five, that she didn't play. Somebody was in there
You
with her.
think you think he was in the crowd talking about stone her?
Known her. And it's so interesting how when it's somebody else, and she was clearly guilty. But what Jesus is saying, you guilty too.
Yeah.
You just trying to make me stone her for the thing you saw her do, but you don't want to be stoned for the things I know you do. So he
Yeah.
said okay, that's empathy at its rarest form. Okay, I'm gonna bring it back to y'all. throw a stone if you ain't got no sin. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Then he looking around, okay. Did nobody have no stone to throw? Because why? They could see themselves then. It's like, oh, okay. Oh, well, shoot. I didn't want to bring it up my stuff. I just want to deal with her stuff. I just want to get her stoned. Don't worry about what I'm doing. I want to worry about what she doing. And Jesus said, no, we're going to worry about what everybody doing. How about that? Let's worry about what everybody's doing.
And
So
that requires taking a step back and not making rash decisions or quick decisions about things. Again, I think it's fair to say everybody has an initial, thought about something, especially if it's something that offends them or affects them in a certain way that, they're going to, try to respond. But I think taking that moment to, go through a process of understanding, like, why is this person doing this? Why is this person saying this? Why is this person, this emotional about this, right? So I'd say if it's hard for you to put yourself in someone's shoes, the other part I think practically is to ask questions. Ask inquisitive questions. Some questions could be as direct, like why are you so upset about this situation? And then don't just ask the question. Listen. I think the other part of it is being a good listener. Because once you listen, I think people can tell you, how you can empathize with them. You can read in between the lines. You can sometimes they're articulate enough to share exactly, why they're dealing or reacting that way. But sometimes they're so, out of it themselves, you know, you can pick up the in between stuff that comes with them.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I think that's an important task. So
I'm one of them people. I watch a lot of crime shows. I'll be watching them. I'll be like, and let me tell you, this is my thing. I don't care like what they did. I want to know why. Like you get a serial killer, he killed 10 people. He killed women, he killed kids, he raped and killed. It's like I heard what they did. I like to research their background because there's a reason. Nobody's born to just be a serial killer. You're not born to. I always want to know what catalyst led them to this. Like, how were they raised? Like, what environment did they grow up in? What influenced them? I always want to get a background to like, why, how does a person end up like this? It's not so much what they did. Why are you killing? Why are you destroying people? Why do you think this is okay? I always want to know like the background. How were they raised? Like, give me more information and insight. This is what they did, but I want to know why they did it.
yeah.
Like what's going on in their head? What makes you see somebody, oh, I got to kill them? What's going on the inside? What led them to that? Like,
Hmm.
what is it? Like most people like could kill them. You got to get rid of them. I said, okay, maybe so. But why? Because if you tell me why they did it, we can stop somebody in the formation with that same background because we know how they turned out. If I know they why, we can address the why and stop other, maybe 10 other serial killers. But like, hey, you can't do that to a child because we got proven statistics that say this is how they will turn out. That's why I like to know why, because how can we attack it from a way to prevent this from happening again? If you just tell me what they do, you just move on. Oh, they need to be killed. They need to be lethal injection, kill them by, that's over. They shouldn't have did that. That's not helping to prevent or giving me a solution to stop this from being rebirthed over and over and over again. So I
Right.
always like to see, why are they doing this? What's the catalyst? What's going on here? What's in their bloodline? What's in their DNA? What are they watching? How were they raised? It's always, nobody does anything just because. Everything you do in your life is a reason why you're doing that. Even if it's on autopilot, it's bloodline, it's raising, it's influence, how whatever influences your environment, it dictates how you're going to respond to people, places, things, and events. Because there's some pre-wiring that's on the inside that's going to come up if you push the particular button. Because
Yeah.
I know I have them. Like I have certain triggers, but I'm aware. I'll be like, so I tell you, definitely when I feel it coming up, get in a certain situation, I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna have to remove myself or do something because that blood pressure is going from 0 to 100, like boom. And it's like, okay, this is, I'm gonna have to, step back because it's some stuff that takes me, there, and I'm willing to admit it and own it. It's just it's what it is. One of my family. Don't mess with my family. Like I got one sister and people mistreat her, and immediately The empathy is not there when you mess with her because I know her spirit and personality. I'm a little bit more rough for me and the little sis, but my middle, she don't bother nobody, pick with nobody. She quiet, she minds her business. So when you mess with her, the empathetic side is not coming up. The attack side is going to be the trigger is immediate to attack. When you mess with this particular one. So I get it. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I understand. You got certain. Everybody has certain triggers. Everybody, no matter who. Everybody got something. You do the wrong thing, you gonna get another part.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ricky brings up a good point, and Dion, I want you to definitely close us out here. And I just want to address this real quick. It says, unfortunately, society doesn't follow this rule. The real question is, how do you deal with the people who are in the world? Just like Jesus did, a lot of church folks only deal with church folks. So, Ricky, what I will say is that everything that we're talking about right now, I mean, it definitely applies to how we deal with each other in the body of Christ. Uh, but it even more applies to how we deal with people in the world, right? If we really want to introduce people to Christ, we got to take his lead. We got to do it the way he did it. When I look at, when he addressed sinners, right? People who he addressed them, he met them where they were, right? He had empathy for them, right? And then he talked about what's right. He'll a lot of times he'll address their issue and then he'll say go and sin no more. Like he wouldn't even go into details. And Jesus know all the details. He know from birth what that person was dealing with. When he was talking to the
Mhm.
woman at the well, he was read her life,
Resume.
right? So he
Mhm.
knew everything about them, but the way he handled them was still
Mhm.
in love. So great point, Ricky. Everything that we are saying, just to be very clear, needs to apply to how we deal with people in the world. I think to your point about people getting pushed away from the church is because a lot of us as Christians aren't in the practice of um, being empathetic, aren't in the practice of loving people the way we should love them and really caring about them enough to go that extra mile to build relationships. You can't, Bishop TD Jakes always says this. You can't touch something. You can't speak to something that you won't touch. You know what I
Mm.
mean? You can't address a person that you won't even deal with, right?
Mhm.
Um, and there's certain sins that might disgust me a little bit more than other sins, and earlier in my life, and I just wouldn't deal with those type of people, But if God is calling me to be a disciple, and there's certain people because it personally offends me or personally bothers me, that I'm missing out on. I realized earlier in my life I was missing out on some of my calling there. I have to be willing to empathize, and like Lasagna was just saying, find out the why
Mhm.
behind different things. And when you find out the why, and when people see that you earnestly care about what they have going on, then there it's not that hard to introduce them to Christ at that point, because that's what Christ is all about. He cares about what you're going through. He just wants you to tell him and walk it through him. So, Dion, what were you about to say?
I was just gonna say that it's harder to get to the place of empathy because what may disgust me. Let's say if someone's a molester and
Mhm.
that disgusts me to no end, it's harder for me to get to empathy with them because I'm so disgusted and offended by that particular sin.
Mhm.
Whereas
Hmm.
I may be, what I'm saying, someone who is a liar. You know,
Mhm.
lying don't really bother me, what I'm saying, because that's, what I do, but if you molesting people, oh, you're disgusting, you're vile and wretched. And
Right.
and people view other people's sins as so wrong and so horrible and so ratchet, and they don't take in that they can't take into account their sins. And that's why the whole, the woman caught in an adultery situation is so real and so vivid even now, is because regardless of how I feel about my own sin, I'm more disgusted by what you're doing because that offends me directly. And we have to be able to come to the place where, we look at sin across the board as everybody's sin is everybody's sin, and
Right.
understand that we've all done things that
Mhm.
could land us right in the middle of the hellfire, and
Mhm.
understand that, we all have that situation that if God would have snatched the cloak off of us, we would be so exposed that we would never be able to show our face again. And so when you get to that place and understand that there is no sin worse than any other sin, you can deal with people, on the one-to-one basis a lot better. But, as long as we continue to make, whoever else is sin or whatever I personally dislike the most, so horrible and deplorable, we can never get to that place, because we're looking at it just for that particular value, instead of, getting your arms around this person and realize they may have fallen and can't get up by themselves. They need our help, and that's why they can't come to Christ. That's why they can't come to church, because they feel, and people have made them feel, that they're the worst thing in the world. But it's not. All sin is all sin at the end of the day, and we have to be able to get our arms around everybody and pull them up.
Yeah. Yeah. Ricky, he wanted to join the show, man, and we about to wrap up. But Ricky, we always have guests on the show, so
Mhm.
and this is a conversation I think we can have on some different levels. So I'll definitely um, I'll get you my email address, or I think you got my phone number, man. You can give me a call and or a text, and we can set something up, and how you come up here and talk with you. I really appreciate you being an active part of this conversation. There's a lot of good things that you brought up and inspired in this conversation. Um, and I'll end with this. We definitely, I know we started off talking about Tyreek Hill and wherever you fall on the stance. I read so many comments like, "Oh, he should have just, he should have just did what the cop said. He should have did this," and all the way to the cops just was out of pocket, right? The truth of the matter is both people are right. The issue is having the ability to understand each other's part and the empathy to understand why a person reacts in the way they act, why it's wrong for you know one person because of their color to have to respond or do something because of this, and another person because of their lack of color, not having that same type of issue, and vice versa. Again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like there's not other opportunities for everyone to have empathy. And it's so funny. I think that the the thing that's taught me the most about empathy is being married, and going to God and telling God about my wife, and him showing me. Like, it's humbling, right? And I think that's the last practical thing I leave with. We got to be more humble, right? We got to be humble enough to look at ourselves, know where we came from, remember where we came from, know how far God brought us. Like our righteousness, anything that's good about me, anything you see that's good about me, is God. Period. Like
Mhm.
I'm gonna tell you, even if I was born with it, it's because God put it in me,
That's right.
and I'm walking it out. But if I'm nice to people, when people tell me I'm patient, you didn't know me in my 20s. You really didn't. Like and oh Shelton, you don't ever get mad. You didn't know me. you, you I know me. And so it's awesome to be able to receive those type of compliments. But if you forget that it's not you, it's God, it's His righteousness that really redeemed us. You can easily fall out of the lose the skill to empathize with people. But if you can keep it in your head, the decisions that you almost made and the decisions God saved you from and all of that, dang, you'll you would really find it really hard to not empathize with people. So
Mhm.
So I think that's a good show. It's 7:59. So I
Oh,
am gonna tell people, hey, go out, watch the debate, see what's what. Your civic duty is to vote, so go vote.
mhm.
Um, and let's do this. But thank you guys for joining the re-up. We'll be here next Tuesday, same time, same bat channel. And James Earl, you got something to say?
Go with peace.
That's funny.
Real Talk Show.